We got to mix the mission statement with the idea that everything is relevant. Our stand-up is relevant. Living in New York is relevant because it's all how to deal with day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that generally it? Yeah. And how the littlest things in the world ruin your whole outlook on life just because of one day when it's really not that big of a deal, but we've got to find a way to deal with our fucking anger, basically.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Power of How. Y'all are lucky this week because me and Brennan don't feel like doing it. We don't feel like doing it, but we're doing it anyway.
We were close. We were so close to just being like, we'll push it.
Yeah. Well, I had a busy weekend. My in-laws are visiting, and you've got boyfriend duty today. And Daniel, I forget what he's doing. We organized this so long ago. I don't even remember what he was busy with.
I almost forgot, and then you sent me a text. You're like, we're still on for tonight, right? And I was like, yeah, definitely.
Oh, man, I screwed up. I should have.
No, it was good for me because I was like, I know I got to, because I had to get home.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have something planned.
Yeah.
As like an escape.
Right.
Not even an escape, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do. No, like
you're going to a party or you're going to hang out with people. It's always good to be like, well, I can come, but I do have this other thing that has to get done at this time.
The words hard out.
Yes.
Are very, very handy.
I love it. I'm teaching Tracy so many like showbiz terms.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we have a hard out. We're going to do a tight 30. And she's like, I don't know what any of that means.
It means, you know how most people just kind of show up whenever and leave whenever, and they don't have time constraints? You see that 29-minute mark.
We're out of here.
And you're the fuck out.
Yep.
Before we get started, we're going to be in Philly on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
And we got a Patreon.
Patreon.com/The Power of How podcast. Come see us in Philly. It's going to be me, Matt.
Yeah.
We're going to have
some other guys.
Yeah, some other people. Jester Castle. Show starts at 8, doors at 7, Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. So there's a bodega by my house that I don't go to anymore.
Yeah.
And I'll refresh the audience's memory. I went there, and I had a 6-pack, which are usually around $12 to $15 in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And but the dude wasn't saying anything, and on the cash register it said $5.99, and I just go, so what is this, $5.99? He's like, he called me stupid 8 different ways, and then when I was like, you don't have to call me stupid, he goes, well, how else would I treat you? It's something like that.
Yeah,
that's the short version of the story, which I told earlier, and I warned everybody, like I warned all our listeners, don't go.
And me. I was, in fact, when we came, Tracy and I came over for your birthday.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we should grab some beer. And she goes, well, what about this bodega? And I purposely was like, we don't go there because the way they treated Matt, we don't go there. And then today, I'm getting off the subway.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the people, I'm that kind of person where I don't drink stuff for like pre-workout or like an energy drink when I'm tired. I just drink water.
Yeah.
So today I hadn't had any caffeine. My head's pounding because I'm having withdrawals because I have caffeine a lot. And I'm getting off the train. I'm like, I have to get like a Red Bull or something. And I walk up and I'm like, well, I'm not going to that bodega, obviously. And there's a little shop right next to that bodega.
Yeah.
And the guy's closing. And I'm like, fuck. Well, I guess I have to go into the bodega. So I go into the bodega. I got one of those 8-ounce Red Bulls, sugar-free 8-ounce Red Bull. And I put it on the counter. Doesn't say anything, just looks at me because I pulled cash out. So he has to tell me a number. For those of you listening not in New York, people love, merchants love to just not say anything.
Yeah, what? But this guy especially, but what is that about?
I mean, I have it at the bodega across the street from my place where I always have to ask. It happens because you guys know I try to go to the Met like at least twice a month. If I get a hot dog outside, same thing. They just don't say anything. It's like this weird thing where you have to go like, how much? It's almost like in their head, they're like, well, if you're not from here, I'm going to charge you more.
Yeah, it's like if I hand you a 5 for a hot dog or a 10 for a hot dog, or you're just going to go, thanks.
Thanks, yeah.
And it's $10 hot dogs today.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I had that.
But I got to ask you, how often does that go right for the bodega guy? Probably never.
It can never go right.
Never.
And I had this conversation with someone on my podcast, but because they had grown up in New York, and they're like, oh, you just have to do it with confidence. So if you walk in and grab like a soda, you just put $2 on the table and go, thanks, and walk out.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I've never done it that way, but I guess you can.
Sure.
Because they're just like, oh, I guess it's $2 today.
Yeah.
But I went in there and got that little 8-ounce Red Bull, and he said $16.53. Like he hit some numbers on the thing, and I said 16, and he looked at me and he goes 1653, and I was like, for what? And he goes, isn't, because there was other random stuff on the counter, but there's always random stuff on the counter. And he goes, isn't all of this yours?
Right.
And I was like, he watched me walk in. The Red Bulls are right there. Like, I was like, no, it's just this. And then this was the funniest part. He goes, oh, okay. 825 for a 8-ounce can. And I was like, and then I looked at him and I said, really? And he goes, yeah, Red Bull's expensive. And I just handed him, and I handed him $9, and I normally just don't even keep the change, but I was like, no, give me my change.
On this one, you need a rebate.
And I was like, this is why we don't go to this bodega.
He didn't finish the sentence. He's supposed to say, Red Bull is expensive here.
Yeah. And
because it is expensive, but it's like $4.
Yeah. Especially for the little ones, $5 maybe, even up here. But just walking to your house, the whole time, obviously, I'm just thinking, I knew not to go there. Matt told us not to go there.
Well, listen, I'm sorry it happened to you, but I'm glad it happened to you at the same time because now I don't have to be crazy.
Yeah, you're not
now
crazy.
Now I can be like,
and he was so rude about it. I was like...
Such a dick. He's such a fucking asshole. And he lost a customer. That would be my place.
Yeah,
because
it's so close.
The deli is really nice now. They redid it. But they just got some guy working there that doesn't want to be working there, and he is a fucking dick. I tell you what it was, audience, but I don't want you rolling up on my residence.
Yeah, it was one of those weird things where I don't know if this is because you grew up kind of in the South. I mean, I don't know if
kind of.
Yeah,
I'm a north.
Yeah, you're
southerner,
the north side of it, but there's this thing to be said. And we talked about this last week, and we talk about it often about. Like these different boxes people get put in. But there is something to be said for Southern charm. There is something to be said about hospitality. And I know we've brought it up before, but we are always trying to find the positivity in certain situations. But with this guy, I just kind of want to be like, there's times, especially working at the restaurant and interacting with people, where I kind of just want to ask people, and like not even a dick way, just kind of be like, yo, what's going on?
Exactly.
Like what is this?
Yeah.
I had it at the restaurant literally last night. Last table of the night, they're eating dessert. I say, is there anything else I can get for anyone? A couple people order after dinner drinks, and then I drop the check. And everyone else was super sweet, super cool. And then the one guy who was like the lead guy was like, what's this? And I said, oh, everyone said they were finished. So I just for your, no rush, for your convenience whenever you're ready. And he goes, we still have drinks on the table. We're not done. And I get it. It seemed a little rushy, but I just put that there so they're not waiting for me.
Yeah.
And I really just want to be like, dude, we had a great time. Like, what?
Yeah.
But you can't say that. You just have to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. And take it back and like, oh, apologies, and walk away. And I want to be like, what the fuck's your problem, man?
Yeah, I think, and I'm not sticking up for this guy because fuck this guy and you're my guy. But I think the check puts people in a bad mood.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like
especially
the Seinfeld belt where like you're ordering like a king. And then when you get the check, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It's the pay after the scenario.
Yeah, especially.
That ruins people's nights.
They get so. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe it's because I've worked in restaurants for so long, or maybe it's because I'm an in and out kind of person.
Yeah.
But I don't like to linger.
I'll tell you what I don't like. Yeah, I don't like, where's the guy so I can look at the check?
Exactly.
Because you can always get another check.
Well, we always called it, in the restaurant industry as a server, our managers would always say, don't hold your guests hostage.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to leave, they want to leave.
Right.
So make sure they have the check so they can leave when they're ready to go.
Just like at the airport bar, they always put
it right
your
in front
check
of you.
in every time, and then they give you a new check
every time you
when
order
you're done.
something.
So that guy and the bodega guy are probably secret lovers. That
top of the list,
that
man.
Like that's what they have in common.
I'm buying that bodega.
Yeah, me too.
Once we get enough on Patreon, patreon.com/thepowerofhour-podcast, we're buying it.
We need to buy that and fix the sign because there's two signs because it's on a corner.
Yeah.
And half of it's the second half is lit, and the other side of it, the first half is lit. Like they're just dependent on the two signs to get the whole thing together. But they suck. They're not even open 24 hours anyway. What good are you? What good are you as a deli?
It's interesting being a comic because you can really find out what places that say 24 hours are really 24 hours. Do you ever find this? Like just walking around at night?
I find that places in New York City, you're always fed this idea, the city that never sleeps.
Yeah.
And ever since the pandemic, New York has been napping.
Yeah, because
going to bed early.
We got a bedtime now.
Little power naps here and there. Yeah, no, there's places that just straight up close.
Yeah, well, because the interesting thing is the bodega across the street from me says 24 hours, and the open sign always stays on. Mm-hmm. But I've gone out there like 3, 4 in the morning when I get back from doing spots or when I get back from like work or whatever it is. Because a lot of times I get off work super late, and then I'll go to the clubs to hang out. So then by the time I'm getting home, it's like 2, 3 in the morning. Go upstairs, get something to eat, and then I come back down. I'm like, oh, I'm out of cigarettes, and they're closed. Like lights are off, but the open sign is still on, and I'm always like, you tricky fuckers.
They do that
because nobody comes out that late.
Yeah, they keep the open sign. For some reason they're too lazy to like do it, or that's some game or something.
I think it's just one of those things where they're like, oh, I'm just gonna take like a quick nap, or I'm just gonna like leave for a couple hours and come back. But it is. There's only one spot near me on the Upper East Side that's actually 24 hours. And that's one diner that apparently has been open 365, 24 hours a day since like 1971.
Wow.
And it's an awesome diner. I love it. Problem is, it's just far enough away where you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like, more the walk back.
Yeah. It's the 7 block. Yeah, because when you're walking there, you're hungry. You're like, oh boy, oh boy.
I'm doing this, yeah.
Then you eat and you're full and you're tired and you're like, fuck, I got to go like 10 blocks back home.
Someone hands you a check. You're like, what is this? What is this? I had a busy week, like a social week.
Yeah.
My buddy Louis Katz had a birthday at this really like hip restaurant in Williamsburg. Yeah. And I almost flipped out. Like I'm evolving a little bit, but I still wanted to flip out.
What happened?
Well, we got there like maybe just like a minute or two late because like my boy Louis Katz is always late, and I kind of knew. I don't know about you.
As well documented on Roadheads.
Yeah, so it's like I know he's gonna be late, but it was also like I don't know who's gonna be there. Mm-hmm. So I kind of still wanted to show up on time to make sure I could sit next to somebody I know.
Yeah, oh yeah, especially in those environments.
But it really backfired because me and Kristen and then another couple that I didn't know were both there early, and they sat us. And we're just sitting across from each other. And I really, like, not major, but minor panic sets in. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to have to talk to these people until Louis gets here.
Yep.
And I don't know when that's going to be. And it's like...
This is his wedding all over again.
Yeah, well, at least at his wedding, I was standing up.
That's true.
And mobile. But we're sitting there talking, and it's also so fucking loud in there.
So is it like a hipster place, or is it like a nice place?
It's an upscale Chinese restaurant with American jazz music.
Okay.
And it's just packed... Kind of a medium-sized place with low ceilings. Actually, be a great place to do comedy because all you hear is the noise, and so you're just looking at people's lips, like trying to figure out what's going on. And there's at least like 3 or 4 sentences where you go, "Oh yeah," right? And they can be like, "Yeah, we just got evicted," but you're like, "That's so great." But this is my superpower. Is my wife can just like roll with it.
Oh yeah.
She's actually interested in like where people are from and stuff.
We learned that on the bus in Hawaii.
Where are you from? Like you really want to know.
So like, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm like I should have just been like how about we look at our phones until Louis gets here. What do you say? It was actually really nice. Like they were really cool.
How many people total ended up showing up?
There was 7 total.
Okay.
All right. And we totally got along with this couple. There's no reason to be afraid of talking to people.
Oh, I'm so scared.
But for some reason, my instincts are like, what?
I don't, yeah.
I'm going to go take a shit. That could last me about 10 minutes.
Somebody text me when Louis gets here, and then I'll be done.
Yeah, but it was cool. Like, that actually... Like Kristen and the dude actually like kind of worked together. He works for like a film production place, and we had a great time with them. And then we went to see Talking Heads.
Okay.
That movie in IMAX.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the band.
It's a band. They put out a movie in 1984.
Got it.
It's back.
It's back.
It's
in
incredible.
IMAX?
Yeah.
Where did you see it at an IMAX theater, like one of those big ones?
Yeah, it was huge, man. It was goddamn huge. It was like I've had a real New York experience lately. It's usually just sitting in this apartment.
Yeah.
But it was like one of the rare times in my life where I'm rolling around New York City with a group. It's usually just me or Kristen.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that's why it was so fun when we were doing some of the Powerhouse stuff, because it's like, oh, we got a crew now, man.
I know, which is we gotta have more field trips. Yeah. We decided. And I went to the doctor, and I gotta get a little more serious.
Oh, really?
Cutting out beer, because she was just like, that's why you got extra weight on you, dude. Oh, she's like, you drinking beer, and she even like, you know how they like push on your stomach.
Oh yeah.
Figure stuff. She goes, yeah, that's beer.
I found it. It's right
here. No
here.
more smoking weed. Gotta do the edibles. These all have great booby prizes, by the way. I can still drink liquor and wine.
Yeah.
And take edible marijuana. So things aren't that bad. These are more like hacks.
So wait, because it goes back to your bit from, but
about smoking pot.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, it's never
actually bad for you.
It's never good.
So you were right the whole time.
How can it be? How the fuck can it be? It's
That's got to be somewhat justification, though, because you wrote that joke a while ago, and now you have a doctor being like, yeah, you can't smoke. And you're like, I knew it.
Yeah, I'm like, I know. That's actually really old information. I don't even say that information anymore because I'm so tired of it. But yes, of course I knew that. And that's what's funny. And I told her that. I go, look, I know all this stuff, but once a doctor tells me, I can do it.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
See, the reason...
That's how I quit drinking like a maniac.
Okay.
Was like, I talked honestly, and I always answer honestly. You get the best advice. Most people go in, lie to their doctors, get shit advice, and then people are like, so how come your blood pressure is like 160 over 102? I don't know. I don't know.
I went to the doctor.
Oh, it wasn't because you did maybe some crystal meth today? Maybe that.
Well, that's a weird...
Oh, is that... Were we not supposed to do uppers?
There's a correlation?
Because I have a lot of work to do, so...
That is the most interesting thing I found from being now in recovery, but being an addict and alcoholic, is I would always lie.
I know.
And then I would be like, I'd be talking to like my uncle or my dad or somebody in my family, and they'd be like, yeah, I went to the doctor, and they don't know what's wrong with me. And then I started, because I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And so then I just started telling the truth. I don't know if I saw it on TV or something, but I had this weird thought in my head where I was like, oh, the doctor's actually on your side. Like, you want to tell them the truth.
That's what the payment is all about.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Yeah, it's a service.
So I started telling the truth, and boy, did everything change.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting that you said that after the doctor told you, you kind of were like, oh, well, that's an authority figure, obviously, as a doctor, a medical doctor. Yeah. Because I never had that experience as far as taking the advice.
Okay, well,
obviously.
Well, I sat down with the doctor. Like, I had this moment where I got high blood pressure when I was 30.
Oh, wow.
It's in my family.
Did you notice it, or did you just go to the doctor and told you?
I went in there like so hungover when I was 29. Just like living my regular life.
Yeah.
You know, and I had gotten up early. It really was like a weekday. I went on my lunch break. And the doctor comes back in. She's like, your blood pressure is really high. Like, we're going to check it again. You know, sometimes it's high when you first get here. And we checked it again. And she's like, I got to get you on medication if you can't get this down. And
okay, so it wasn't like you're having a heart attack. She was just like...
No, but it's high.
Yeah.
Like, it's high. And
at 29.
And now that I know the numbers and I'm familiar with the numbers, like, she had every right to be like, it's high. Because it was high. And so what I did was, I was like, she goes, come back in a month, try to get it together, come back in a month. Because, you know, you don't really want to go on medication if you can help it.
Yeah.
And so I swam laps like crazy for like maybe like a month or two. And I still do this to this day. I swam laps day of the doctor's appointment. Mm-hmm. And my blood pressure was good when I was 30. And she's like, oh, okay, cool, you turned it around. And then I fucking probably didn't go to a doctor for another like over 10 years.
Yeah, and you just go back to living the life you had before.
And just drinking.
Yeah.
And that's before even my road career started. So that's before I'm eating chicken wings like it's a real meal. And like ranch dressing on a fucking plate of you know,
French
like
fries, yeah.
No, not French fries, but that salad that you can like taste the bag.
Yeah.
You know, that shitty lettuce.
And you go, well, I'm eating a salad.
Yeah.
You cover it in dressing and croutons.
Right. Yeah. No. So it was 2015. I went to I did that Tosh tour I did in 2015. Like really. It was like all of a sudden an anchor in my life where I wasn't freaking out about money. I wasn't like operating on a survival mode.
Yeah.
Which is like the worst way to live. because you're not thinking, you're just like reacting and panicking and making snap decisions. And I said to myself, I'm like, you know what? You might want to check that blood pressure again. It's been about 10 years since you checked that shit. And I went into the grocery store by my house.
Oh, no.
And I went and sat in the chair.
Yeah.
Because it's also a pharmacy.
Yeah. And they've got the little cuffs.
They got the little cuffs, and I went in there, and it was high. It was really high. And then I started freaking out, and it kept getting higher and higher and higher and higher to the point where the machine was like, you need to go to the hospital.
Oh, my God.
And then I'm like, no, that can't be. You know, and I went home, and I'm just like taking it easy. And, but I'm thinking about it again. So I go back to the doctor's. I go back to the grocery store, and I put in there, and it's just like still like crazy high.
Yeah.
And I walked out of there, and I saw my buddy Kevin Christie in the parking lot.
Okay.
And he's like, how's it going, man? And you know how like you're in your own world when something crazy's going on? He's like, how's it going? He was just trying to say hello, and I'm like, my blood pressure's really high, man. I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. And he goes, you better go to the fucking hospital, dude. So I went to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And because it was like 11 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I go in there, and the hospital, they hate your living guts.
Oh, yeah.
Because this qualifies as an emergency in a way, but not to them, because they know I'm probably going to live or whatever. And
the guy in 2B's like got 3 gunshot wounds, and you're like, my blood pressure.
Yeah, but I'm freaking out so much that my blood pressure is at 180 over 120. Which is super high. And so I had every right to be at the hospital.
Yeah, that's like heart attack.
And I lay down, like I'm already feeling better because I'm in the hospital, and it gets back down to like 150 over 100.
Still high.
And the dude is like, still high for the audience, still high. And the dude is like, I know you don't like going to the doctor. You need to start going to the doctor. Get a relationship with your doctor. And I'm like, yeah. And I had kind of like a sleepless night because I still had to get a hold of a doctor. I didn't even have a doctor.
Yeah.
And, and I still had to get to the pharmacy with the prescription they gave me. And I go to this doctor very, very soon, like maybe a day or two later. And that's when I was like honest, because it's like, obviously I've got to be honest. Mm-hmm. And she was just like, are you drinking a lot? And I'm like, I am drinking so much alcohol. And she goes, you think it's a problem? I'm like, I don't see how it can't be. Right? Like, how is it not a problem?
If you understand how much I'm drinking, it's a problem.
I'm like, well, I can't really stop, and it's bad for me. And I
can't go through a single night without doing it.
I can't see how, and she goes, she says to me, and like, I'll probably never forget this. She goes, you're being honest with me. This is really great. I also found out I was 5'10" that day, which I always thought I was like 5'8". Like, that's my self-esteem.
Good. Yeah.
That's my self-esteem. So I'm like, 5'10". I've been walking around with this 5'8" fucking mentality. Like, I'm average. I'm above average slightly, you
get away with 6 feet.
Yeah.
Wearing the right shoes.
Yeah. So then I started eating really well, running and swimming. And I saw like Tom Segura like 6 weeks later. It was like a 6 weeks between we seen each other.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, did you lose a lot of weight? I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even trying to lose weight. I was just trying to keep my blood pressure low.
Yeah. Is there something, because I'm interested in this, because blood pressure, cholesterol is the only thing, knock on wood, that really runs in my family.
Yeah.
As far as like medical stuff, like no one has a history of cancer or diabetes or anything like that, or high blood pressure. But because of my anxiety, my blood pressure spikes all the time.
Right.
And that's how I knew that was high, because I remember one time when I went into a detox, I went in, and it goes back to your survival instincts, impulsive decisions.
Yeah.
I went in because I was like, I missed like 3 days of work because I was just so drunk, And I was like, I need to get off this, but it is dangerous to detox from alcohol on your own. You could die, especially the way I drank. So I went to this detox, and literally within 12 hours, I was like, I need to get the fuck out of this detox. But they would not release me until I could get all my levels right.
Yeah.
And my blood pressure, they were like, you can't leave until your blood pressure is like below 140 over like 80.
Yeah.
And it was like right around 140, 145. And then when you were like, I calmed down, I got it to 150. I was like, that's still real high, man.
It's really high.
Like they wouldn't let me leave that facility at that.
It's really high. And when I say I had never been to a doctor, that's not exactly true. And I had health insurance with a company that most people make fun of. I'm not going to like rag on it because maybe it's like, all right, I want to discourage people from getting health insurance. But they were just like, yeah, that's high. And no advice, no medication.
Oh, wow. Just like,
this is when I wanted to get like a beta blocker for performance.
Yeah.
They just as a routine, I wanted to get some medication. And just as a routine, they check your blood pressure and they're like, yeah, it's high. And I was just like, yeah, I was expecting that. And they go, well, you're probably just nervous because you're at the doctor's office. And I go, yeah, I'm probably just nervous because I'm at the doctor's office. Because to me, for some reason, medication was like the last thing I wanted to take. And now I'm like, give me the medication. Because even though I'm way healthier than I was, if I take it late in the day, I'll take my blood pressure if I didn't take my medication. Because sometimes you forget whether you took your pill or not.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I'll check it at like 2 p.m. or something if I'm not sure if I took my pill. And it'll be high. Not crazy high.
But it's high.
But high. And I'm like...
Do you feel, like, what is the effects of that?
You don't...
Can you feel it?
You don't feel it unless you're aware of it.
Okay.
In other words, unless you're experienced. Because they call it the silent killer. Because you just don't know. Especially if you always have high blood pressure.
Yeah.
You can't tell.
Because that's the thing I'm worried about. Because there's a lot of times where I'll like get shortness of breath or something like that. And then I'll check my watch because it's got the thing on it. And my like heart rate will only be like 100.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then there's a part of me that's like, but I don't feel right.
Right.
Like something's off. And then I've always, the last 30 years of my life, I've just chalked it up to anxiety. Like, oh, I'm just having an anxiety attack. I'll be all right.
Yeah.
But then there's a part of me hearing you talk about this where I'm like, fuck, do I try to get my...
What are you worried about? I mean...
Just having high blood pressure and not... Because I don't go to the doctor. I haven't had health insurance, so I haven't been to the doctor since I got out of detox, which was in 2016.
I got something for you. I'll do a free commercial right now. It's for a business called One Medical.
Okay.
And it's $200 a year. And you might have to pay for some office visits, but it's relatively affordable. Go in there. That was going to be my message for the show. We found a theme.
There we go.
Go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Once a year, at least, and go get that checked out. After all these stories and everything, I'll tell you, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
If your blood pressure is supposed to go up at certain times.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they measure it while you're sitting in a chair.
Yeah. Because that's the thing that I misspoke because, I was just talking. But the last time I went to get a full physical workup was when I was 30. And it was probably 3 or 4 months after I had gotten completely sober. Yeah. And I went and got a full medical workup. And the doctor was like, you're perfect. Yeah. He's like, you could stand to lose a little weight. Yeah. And I go, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm an insane alcoholic and drug addict. Like, I just got clean like 4 months ago. He goes, the liver's an amazing thing.
It is.
It is. He's like, your enzymes are normal, your kidney function. I was like, my liver was failing like 5 months ago. And he goes, you're all good now. And I like carried that. It's like when I have a really good set. Like I carried that for now 5 years. And I'm like, I'm perfect.
What did I just tell you? I got like one good clean bill of health. And I'm like, let's just not check on it.
Let's just not check
on it. This isn't a process. This is a one-time thing. I'll check it again when I'm 75.
I go to the gym. I'm good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my whole family has high blood pressure. I fucking knew better.
That's the one saving grace about like knowing your family's history. Yeah. Like everyone's a tank. Mm-hmm. Like, even like both my grandmothers are in their 90s. Uh-huh. They're all good. Like mobility issues, but they're good. Yeah. Both my grandfathers lived to be like in their mid 80s. Yeah. So I'm like, and it's not 100, but still it wasn't like, taking a million pills every single day. Like everyone's just like kind of a monster. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Right. What does Christina say? It's that Eastern European, like that cockroach blood. Yeah.
Maybe so. Or maybe everything's just so, I would think generational trauma. but maybe there's just like coasting after. Because, I mean, that's what happens, right? Like, I don't even know much about this. I shouldn't even bring it up. But I know, well, listen, I'm Irish, which is that you just put that.
Yeah.
That's just that's a tense group of people. Mm-hmm. And then also my great-grandparents, you know, they were there during the Nazi occupation of France. Of France, and like they had Nazis in their house and everything, like living there. And I can only imagine like the tenseness that went into like my DNA over that.
Oh yeah.
You know, so and I never heard about this until like a couple years ago. My aunt like brought it up.
Oh
yeah, the
my
Nazis
God, really?
occupied. I'm like, what?
You had no idea.
I had no idea. And it's like, oh, okay, so that's why my grandfather came to this country. Probably not that specifically, but what was brewing over there.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's an insane situation.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, that's like my grandmother on my dad's side grew up during 2 different wars in the former Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting because she's so hard about certain things.
Yeah.
Like she's a G when it comes to some stuff.
Right.
And then other stuff, like every time I call her, it's always, hey, Bubba, how you doing? Oh, Brennan, I'm dying.
Yeah.
You've been dying for 40 years, Bubba.
I know, that's what sucks about it.
But then at the same time, she's like, whenever it comes to like something on the news, she goes, babies. And I'm like, yeah, she's a goon. When someone in my family was talking about, I won't say who, I don't want to get too specific,
sure.
But we were all together and they were talking about you remember that big socialism wave a few years ago and everyone's like, oh, that'd be great. Europe does it. It'd be so cool.
Right.
And then some people went so far as to say like communism. My grandmother grew up in communism like during wars.
Yeah.
And I remember everyone kind of dispersed and it was just me and Bubba. And she looks at me, she goes, people are so stupid. And I go, what's up, Bubba? She goes, I grew up in communism.
Right.
Does not work.
Yeah.
People are so stupid. And I was like, let them know, man.
Right.
Like, tell
no,
them.
of course it doesn't work. It doesn't work because like there's always cheaters no matter what.
But that's ingrained in her DNA, which I think to your point is like ingrained in mine where it's like, we're tough.
Yeah. I don't know. And I don't know what I am. Fucking all my ancestors on top of all that shit moved to the Northeast. Right? They moved to the tri-state area, worked in New York City, both my grandfathers.
Lived in Jersey,
And you know the tightness of this scenario, even in this like new world, you know it. You're living the Northeast life. So you're working your ass off and just that hustle and bustle and always looking for danger.
Yeah.
Not always stressed about it, but always have your eyes open and your ears open for whatever the hell's going on. There's always going to be someone approaching you. In fact, I think I saw your Buddhist monk this weekend.
Did you?
He had beads for a bracelet. And
they're everywhere.
Yeah, listen to a couple episodes back. Brennan got
I got robbed.
He got robbed.
At first I thought it was a big joke, and then I told the story, and then Matt just looks at me and goes, "No, you got robbed, man." And I was like, "Fuck, I did get robbed."
Damn, I got robbed. It was a soft robbing.
Yeah,
it wasn't worth the fight.
Well, because
he could have got robbed right back if you were in the movie.
Yeah, but I talked about it on stage where I was just like, I always thought if I got robbed in New York, it would be like some big moment where I would use some line from some shitty movie and be like, "I've been stabbed too many times to be scared by a knife," and we'd like get into a tussle.
Yeah.
It was like, no, it was a guy dressed as a Tibetan monk who just took all the money I had in my hand out of my hand and went, thank you, and walked away. And I was like, motherfucker.
So I think that is the theme of the podcast.
Go to the doctor.
Go to the doctor regularly. Like that one hospital doctor told me, ER doctor, get a relationship going with your doctor. And I'll repeat what he said again. I know, you don't like it. Dudes don't go to the doctor.
No.
Women go to the doctor every time, generally speaking, they go a lot more frequently. Every time there's something up.
Yeah.
A higher percentage of women go, get it checked out, get the answer, where dudes are just trying to come up with their own answers.
Yeah.
It's almost like, how dudes don't want to ask for directions? Yeah. It's almost like the same thing.
It's literally the same.
Like, I don't want to admit to somebody else that I don't know what's going on with my body.
Yeah. I've been playing off of the fact that I was an athlete, and I haven't been an athlete in 12 years, and I've been playing off of that for the last 12 years, where I go, I know my body.
Right.
Regular people, they don't know. I know my body. When something's wrong, I know. And I've even said that before, like at work, where I've gone in and they go, you feeling okay? And I go, no, I can feel it. Something's very wrong.
Yeah.
I know my body. I can feel it.
Yeah.
I can play hurt, but I think I'm injured right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, you dumb fucking idiot.
Well, you're also ignoring the fact that most teams have like a doctor and a medical that can give you
staff.
that could give you an answer that athletes need on an hour or like a moment by moment basis. Also, on top of that, be honest with your doctor.
Yes.
They've heard way worse, and they're the only ones that can help you.
Yep.
My doctor didn't blink this week when I was like, she's like, you smoke cigarettes? I'm like, oh, no, but I smoke pot like 3 or 4 times a week. And she's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No more smoking. You know what I mean? But she wasn't like, you asshole. How dare you ruin the body that God gave you? She was just like, yeah, you got to stop.
People got to stop.
Yeah.
When I went to that physical, my uncle came with me because it was like the family doctor. So it's like my uncle goes to him, my grandma goes to him.
Yeah.
So, and I would never tell him to leave the room because he's been privy to everything that's happened. Like
Yeah.
my whole one-man show, he was there for a lot of it.
Right.
So I remember sitting in the room with the doctor, and the doctor goes, so, you using any drugs in like the last year? And I was like, year? You mean like calendar year? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And then you just tell him. I was like, yeah, cocaine.
Right.
I've smoked crack like a few years ago. I've done heroin. I've done this.
Right.
And again, to your point, he goes, you don't do any of that now, though, do you? And I was like, no, I got sober. And he's like, yeah, try to stay sober. And that's all he said. And we just moved on. Never got brought up again. No one's ever mentioned it again.
These guys, they had cokehead friends in med school.
Yeah.
They're no angels.
Yeah.
I mean, you tell your sins to a priest, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really into this because I was afraid for a long time. I don't know what the hell I was afraid of, but I was afraid to be honest with the doctor. I'm so glad I was honest with the doctor, and my life's been much better since. Once you get your physical health together, things can really follow. You know, if your physical health is bad, it's hard for other things to be good.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. My biggest fear is being told I'm out of time. Mm-hmm. That's probably the reason why I don't go to the doctor now is because I have all these things I want to accomplish. Yeah. And I'm like, that's literally my biggest fear is them being like, you got 6 months, maybe a year, and I'm going to be like, fuck, man.
That's probably not going to happen, though.
I know, but...
and just think about that 6 months.
That would be...
to a year.
Dude.
That's when you really get to live.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to anybody who's mourning or anything like that, but that's like, that puts things in perspective.
100%.
You know?
That's it's in the book that we talk about all the time, Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art is, why is it that it takes you, why is it for some people it takes being told you're on the cusp of death to start living your life? Right. You should do that right now.
You need to write that book because you can't write it later.
No.
I feel good about this message. Get out there. Get healthy. Don't wait till after the holidays. No. That's what everybody's going to do now. That's what everybody's going to do right now. It's close enough to January 1st that everyone's just going to be like, 2024. I'm going to get healthy. Guess what? Like January 3rd rolls around, you have to go back to work. Yep. And you're right back to the grind.
Do it now. Go now. Go this week. Go to Jester Castle this weekend and then go to the doctor on Monday.
I'm holding you to do that, man. Thanks for listening to The Power of How, and we're out.
Boom.
Here comes the cops.
Thanks for listening to The Power of How. Music by Daniel Torado, artwork by Nelson Diaz. Follow us on all the social medias at The Power of How Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe, and check us out at patreon.com/The Power of How Podcast. Send us some positive vibes in the form of U.S. currency. See you next week, everybody.